The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I am your other host, Warren Van.
Episode 63 of the Warren and Bradley Show went out last night for my birthday.
Yes.
We got the whole crew back together.
Yes.
It's been a long time. It was nice. It was fun. Had a good time.
Yeah, we had a good time.
A strange conversation kept coming up last night. And it's weird. It's like one of these strange synergy things where I keep hearing this thing coming up in a bunch of different places. For some reason, the subject of anal play came up while we were out in the context of straight men inserting things into their asses. And it was weird because it was in the context, like there was one conversation I had, I think it was at the point you had already left and gone home. Yeah. And I was with some of our friends and that came up because I can't even remember what brought the subject up, and then I related the hilarious story of when I was with somebody once and she went and tried to drop a digit on me, and I was like, oh, and she obviously had some boyfriend or somebody who that was the thing to do or something, and she just assumed that that was what all guys liked, and so that brought the conversation around, and everyone, it was odd how many women seem to assume that most men like having fingers shoved up their anuses.
Do you think that's because the women have experience of like men being like, shove your finger up my anus, or the fact that people are talking about it now?
Okay, well, I don't know, because it seemed as though they were talking about it as though it was from personal experience.
Really?
Yeah. Or maybe it is just like, oh, well, that it's one of those common myths that people assume is true, but nobody's ever... Because, I mean, all the men that I was sitting around with, none of them claimed to like having
that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, though,
asses.
too, if you were in that situation, maybe the people that, you know, were into that wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, I like having a woman's finger up my ass.
Yeah, because I'm fine. I'm open to things. Like, I don't think it means you're gay or anything if you like having a finger shoved up your ass. But I guess maybe that connotation would kind of go hand in hand with that.
Well, it's also like a very like intimate detail of one's sexual relations to reveal to people at a bar.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that it's like the zeitgeist now is to like talk about this. It seems to be going around.
Pegging, like girlfriends putting strap-ons on and like fucking you in the ass.
I assume that is something that doesn't happen very often.
I would not think so. It's such a weird reversal of the normal roles.
I could see like something where people like having their like anus like manipulated in some way by like a hand or something, you know what I mean? But I always think it's like to take that step to be like, we're going to order something online or go to the sex shop and get you a dildo and then you're going to like sodomize me with it. That's like takes it to a whole nother level, right?
Well, I famously found that butt plug in my parking lot once. So if you're lucky enough to come across a butt plug that's just sitting out in the wild, then maybe you could try something like that without having to go through the embarrassment of going to like honeypot.com or whatever website.
But if you are like, if you're experiencing that as a gay man and you're saying you're getting pleasure from it, what is to exclude the possibility that as a straight man you would receive pleasure from that when you're with a woman?
Well, and if you actually think about it, it makes sense that it must be pleasurable, because there would be one half of a gay couple who was just, God damn it, the entire time, like not getting any joy out of it, and you would assume that there has to be some pleasure.
Yes, I would assume so. I don't think people just submit to that and be like, well, that's what I have to do, you know? I think there must be, and so I think there, from my understanding of human anatomy, there's like nerves around there, your prostate's down there, all the stuff's down there that I assume can like in some way enhance your level of pleasure.
Like Savage Love or something.
I know, but it's also with very ignorant people who are just kind of like, I think there's something going on down there.
Well, it's funny because all these conversations were coming up, and then I was listening to the Adam and Drew podcast, and they were talking about it. It's just it's in the air.
This is the way what happens with things, though, right?
Yeah.
You know, something comes up, some subject, and all of a sudden people start talking about it, and then everyone's talking about it, and that blows over eventually. But it's like, apparently right now, this is the topic du jour.
Well, I was to the point where I wanted to just start pulling people in the bar or something, just going up to random men, like, do you like having fingers inserted into your anus while having sex?
Well, this is always a problem with understanding what's really going on with human sexuality, is the fact that it's hard to get actual hard concrete data on what's actually going on.
If someone from some institute came up to you and wanted to survey you on your sexual proclivities, how honest would you be with those people?
I think if I was in some sort of like university setting and I was guaranteed that what I was revealing would be completely anonymous and stuff, I would probably I'd give it to them
as
all.
opposed to sitting around in caps and shouting
exactly.
about your
Or
ass
if like somebody
people.
walked up to me on the street and was like an undergraduate from the local university here and was like, what goes on in the bedroom? And I wouldn't be like, well, I'll tell you all about what's ever happened to me in my entire life.
Yeah. I don't know. They've had surveys about just the instances of straight couples having anal sex too. Apparently that's really on the rise, and they think maybe that has to do with internet porn and things where people are like, oh, that's what people normally do.
Well, yeah, that gets back to that's something that's sort of like dirty and naughty, right?
Yeah.
And then people like things that are dirty and naughty.
It's dirty.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they like things that are like, ooh, that's kind of like a taboo.
Yeah.
In a sense, and they're like, ooh, I'll go for this taboo thing.
Yeah. Maybe someday. Buy
You're
myself.
gonna let somebody play around with your butt?
I don't know. I can't imagine.
But
the
you don't have any like
circumstances.
you don't feel like weird about it. I mean, if you were like, ooh, this feels good, would you feel like you had to shut it down?
I don't know. That's interesting to think about. I guess it would depend on the relationship. If it were the kind of thing where the woman wanted to be dominant, and that was like a through line throughout the entire relationship, where like I'm the one who's gonna fuck you.
Yeah,
I might be kind of weird about it because
you wouldn't be weird about it in the sense that like if you enjoyed it, you would be like, I can't do this because there's something wrong.
I don't think so.
But if that came up and you were like being dominated by this woman and you're like, man, this is pleasure,
is amazing,
and she was just like ravaging you and you're just like, oh, squealing in pleasure on the bed.
You're thinking about this in too much detail.
Would you like? I know I had a picture of you just like laying belly down on the bed with a woman like straddling you and you're like squealing, your arms are like flapping about and with pleasure. But if that was something you're like, wow, this is what I'm really into now.
That might be a problem, though, because then if it is something, maybe that's a reason not to try it, because if it is just this amazing, pleasurable thing, then, first of all, how many women are going to agree to strap something on and go to town on you?
Well, maybe you found your perfect match at that point.
Maybe.
You just have a relationship with this woman that's based on this. You think you'd be okay with that? But if that did happen, if you two had that relationship, you would not be at a local bar and be like,
no.
Oh, you're talking about ass play. Well, you know what I do in bed? I am just used by my girlfriend all the time, and I play the role of the woman.
Yeah.
You wouldn't bring that up, right?
I don't think so.
And even if a sex survey, you might be even a little
probably not
reluctant to bring that up.
It's a strange, there is this weird blurry line that I know a lot of guys who maybe are homophobic would be, oh, fuck, no, that means you're gay. You like getting fucked in the ass. It means you're gay. But
Yeah,
I guess
that's a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's...
As long as a woman's fucking you in the ass,
That means you're straight, right?
I guess.
Yeah, it totally does. It's the gender you're with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we put that to bed then. Okay, there's something I need to bring up.
Okay.
And, Warren, you will probably think of me as paranoid, maybe narcissistic, maybe even stepping a toe over the line into like paranoid schizophrenia or something. But
It sounds about right. I don't need to hear what you're saying.
you don't even need to hear it yet. I'm becoming convinced. I mean, I don't really think this, but it seems as though there is some secret organization whose sole purpose is to piss me off while I'm driving. They have cameras hidden in my apartment. There's microphones around. They've got a GPS on my truck. They know exactly where I am at all times. And it's like they've got a satellite overhead, and they're seeing the route I'm taking, and they're like, all right, subject's on the move. Okay, cue morbidly obese middle-aged woman in Ford Taurus, like 1992 Ford Taurus, eating a muffin. And then she pulls out in front of me. They know exactly where it's only a 2-lane road, where it's impossible for me to pass the person. Like, okay, cue her putting on her turn signal and never turning, and slowing down repeatedly at intersections as though she's going to turn, and then not turning. Coming to a complete stop, looking from side to side, and then driving again. This has been going on so often lately, where I'm stuck behind somebody. They're going 15 miles an hour, and I cannot get around them. I don't know... Just today, when I had to run some errands on my way home, there was a guy going down Holly Street, the street I live on, going 10 miles an hour. And he was pointing at things as he was going. It's like he was giving a tour to whoever he was driving with. Oh, there's a bum there. Oh, there's the Lighthouse Mission. There's the drop-in center where the homeless people get their food. It's driving me.
Maybe it was a fan of the show who was like
insane.
Giving a tour of Bumtown to
Maybe
somebody.
it's like the Warren and Bradley show tour.
Yeah, the reality tour. Where are you trying to get to in such a hurry anyways?
It's not even that I sometimes think, oh, it's just the mood I'm in where it seems like everyone's pissing me off, but I can be in a perfectly okay mood and not necessarily be in a hurry to get anywhere. No! It's been a long time, but now we've got a train Just the look on your face.
This is a train break.
Is that what harmonizing is? Is that what we just did?
We were both kind of on the same note.
What's harmonizing?
That's when you take, I might take a major chord and you take the minor chord of that.
Okay, it comes together good. I don't know anything about the parts of music or anything.
Yeah.
It's all, people talk about the melody and all this stuff. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
That was an excellent train break. What was I talking about? The crazy people who don't know how to fucking drive.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Those people.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I've been noticing recently, and I have been trying to parse it like, okay, am I just in a hurry? Am I in a bad mood? Or are these people just driving like idiots? And I think it is that they're just driving like idiots.
But again, you're letting their behavior negatively affect you.
Yes, but there's only so long. I mean, you don't drive normally. And I'm not some psycho crazy road rage person. I don't scream at people or honk my horn or anything. But there's only so long after the 4th mile of being behind someone who's going 15 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone, and you cannot pass them, and it eventually has to get to you, unless you're just the most patient, long-suffering person in the entire world.
Well, I know, like when the girlfriend and I were taking the road trip down the coast a couple months ago, you'd be in the situation where you got behind somebody that was doing something weird like that. And then I would always be like, this is kind of weird. But then if somebody got behind you, and they're like running to get around you, but you kind of have to pass before they can pass.
Right.
And that's when I feel like kind of when I'm driving, like, this is stressful.
Well, it's the same thing we've talked about before, where you and I are both very aware of not inconveniencing people or getting in people's way. And so I take that into driving as well. I make sure I'm always at least at the speed limit, usually 5 miles over the speed limit, which I think is the proper speed to be driving at all times. There's so many people who are just perfectly content. They're looking for a particular street, and they're like, oh, I'll just slow down to a crawl. Just make everybody wait for me, And I would never do that.
Well, yeah, this is a thing that, like, generally annoys both of us a lot, is that idea that, like, I'm not really even concerned at all about what's going on behind me.
I'm the only person in the world.
I'm the only person that matters, so I'll just do whatever I need to do, regardless of the fact it inconveniences anyone. Well, I think with both of us, I know when I was driving, I always would, like, if I was going too slow and somebody wanted to pass, I'd always pull off as soon as possible and let them pass.
Right.
And then get back on, because it just felt better that way.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel that it was, like, okay to just be blocking somebody for mile after mile after mile.
I get really stressed out if I'm in a situation. Like, there was a time when I had to drive a U-Haul truck from Portland to L.A., and I was towing a car behind the U-Haul truck.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It was so stressful because you can't, you go maybe 45 miles an hour is all I could get out of the goddamn thing. And so people are just constantly pissed, and I don't want to inconvenience people. And it's this huge unwieldy thing. You can't see anything out of the mirrors or anything. It's very stressful.
It's a nightmare.
It is.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
These situations that I can't imagine, like, the jobs I would never take, right?
Yeah. Big rig driver would be
big rig driver,
me.
especially the ones when I was in New York recently. There are these giant trucks that kept coming through the middle of Manhattan, would have to make these wide turns.
Yeah.
And there was always like none of the pedestrians cared, right?
Yeah.
And these guys were always like, ugh. And every single cab driver is just laying on their horn at them.
Yeah.
Like, get out of my way, get out of my way. And it's like, I can't imagine, like, taking that job.
Well, it seems weird that they would even... You would think they'd have some sort of, like, depot where they would go into smaller trucks or something, because they don't drive giant lorries through the middle of London, because they're narrow streets and it's congested. They don't do that. But here in America, it seems like, we're fine. We'll just
drive right in.
Huge 18-wheeler.
Because in most places, I guess, in America, like if you were just driving around Wyoming, you would never have a problem.
Yeah.
You just drive right in, drive right out. But yeah, it's just... That just seems like a horrible job.
Yeah, very high stress.
That job and the other job of, like, watching people building the Freedom Tower or something. And that job where you're up there,
Freedom Tower, that's so irritating.
Can you ever imagine doing that job?
I don't know. I'm not afraid of heights or anything. I'm fine.
Even when you're up there?
Well...
Going from beam to beam?
I don't know. I guess you would get so comfortable with it because you do it so often, and there's so many safety procedures in place. I think
regardless of the fact, I could be like completely harnessed up, and it would still drive me nuts. I wouldn't be able to handle it.
I think you have to be a certain kind of person. If you're the kind of person who gets vertigo, if you look over a ledge or something, then, right? You just can't do it, I would assume.
But you think you could do that job?
I think so. Ugh. I don't know if I'd like it, but I mean, my dad has a fear of heights.
Yeah.
If we're on a roof, his knees get weak and he freaks out. But so he could obviously never be up on a high rise.
Yeah, I have a little bit of that though too. I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't think I have any phobia at all.
I don't know if the fear of heights.
Well, that's not an unreasonable fear. I don't. No, think,
that's the other thing about it too, right? It's always like, I'm being cautious because if I did fall from this area, I would die or horribly injure myself. So it makes my body like tense up and be like very careful at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any unreasonable fear? Like there are people who just cannot stand spiders and they just see a spider and it freaks out. They get sweaty and they get shaky, even though they know it can't hurt them.
Because I always get rid of them.
Yeah.
I don't have like a spider walking around and be like, see you later, buddy, and just let them like wander back into my room somewhere. I'm like, there's a spider somewhere. I'm like, ugh. I like jump and then I like either kill it, or I've been trying more recently to like take them outside and release them into the wild.
I had a coworker years ago when I worked in a Barnes and Noble. He was deathly afraid of sharks. Even though he had never seen a shark, he had never been in the water with sharks, but just a picture of a shark would make him almost have a panic attack.
There are a lot of people who have that fear.
It's weird.
It's a Jaws-fueled thing.
Yeah, but you're not in contact with them, ever. It's not like you're going to be walking down the sidewalk and suddenly, a shark! It's just, as long as you don't go in the ocean, you don't have to worry about it.
I don't understand that one either. I mean, yeah, it is strange because it's like, it's not something that's just going to pop out on you at any moment, right?
Of course, we used to take pictures of sharks and put them in like random books where he was reshelving, and he would come across them, and you would hear him like squealing like a little girl.
Really? Just a picture of a shark would do that?
Picture of a shark. Yeah.
Do you have anything like that?
No, I can't think of anything like that. I don't have any phobias. I'm fine with snakes, spiders, any bugs. Not worried about it.
I don't like being in the ocean and thinking about all the like creatures out there, though.
Yeah, I think the closest I would come would be if I were to fall overboard in the middle of the ocean out of sight of land. But I think that isn't unreasonable. That's just me being, oh shit, I'm stuck in the middle of the ocean.
But it's unreasonable in the sense that probably nothing's going to happen. It's really unlikely that there's going to just happen to be like some shark going by.
Yeah.
So the ocean's very big.
Yeah.
So it's like then they're going to like attack you or something. But just that idea, which always bothers me, is like when you're in the ocean, you think about the fact that there's nothing separating you from like the sharks,
right,
or like the manta rays, except for it's just water in between you and them. It's like nothing but space.
And you're at such a disadvantage because you can't breathe.
You can't do anything.
You can't swim.
You can't see very
at all
well
compared to them.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're, in the African savannah and if a lion decides to attack you, you might be fucked, but you still are like, okay, I can try to run, I can try to jump up this tree, the scrub brush or something.
But you're in this like alien environment.
Yeah.
Right?
You're completely at their mercy.
Yeah.
If a great white shark decided to kill me, there's not a whole lot I can do.
No, there isn't. No. And you just don't know what's down there.
I used to have nightmares as a kid of being in some foggy harbor or something and trying to get to a dock, and there would be these giant shapes moving under me in the water.
Yeah.
And that was very frightening to me.
It's that kind of sense, though, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I get that feeling. When I was in Hawaii, and I was snorkeling around, and the water was sort of murky. It was like Waikiki, right?
Yeah.
A million people around. Hardly the most dangerous place in the world.
Yeah.
And very shallow water. And I was just like going around looking at the fish. But you can't see very far. It's not a good feeling. Because you don't know what's going to burst out of there at any moment and attack you.
Yeah, I might want to like hug the bottom or something so nothing can come up. I don't like the idea of things being under me when I'm swimming around.
That's a weird feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're in the water and you're like looking down, you can't see to the bottom.
Yeah.
And you're like, who knows what's down there? You touch something with your foot.
Okay,
and you're like, what was that?
That's a job that I would never do. Is an abalone diver in the kelp forest in California, because that's where the great white sharks are all over the place. You're in this forest of kelp diving for abalone. You don't know what the fuck is around you. That would just freak the hell out of me. Okay, so that is one fear that maybe
that's that fear, right? Because it's not so much that you're scared of the shark if you see the shark and you can identify it and stuff. But it's that fear of the unknown. Like there could be a shark anywhere that could just jump out at you at any moment. Or anything could just jump out at you at any moment. So that's awful. I won't be working in the ocean anytime soon. Although I've always been fascinated by the ocean ever since I was a kid.
No.
And do you remember there was some show when we were little kids where people were going down in like those little cages and they were like sharks were coming at them and stuff? There was some show on ABC or something about it, and I was completely riveted by it. And they'd like stick people in these cages. People just freak out and not like it very much. Was it just like
Shark Week on Discovery Channel or something?
No, I think it was. I believe it was like a network program.
This was a show.
Sort.
The show is, here's the premise of this show. You're at the network executive. We take a cage, we put people in them, we put it underwater, and sharks come and they freak out.
It was a show about sharks.
And this was the same thing every week?
As far as my like childhood memory has it, there were a lot of this show, and there was always about them going down and looking at sharks. And I do remember that people getting in there and being too scared to do it and not being able to go down.
Was the premise that it was them trying to overcome their fear or something? Or
I don't think so. I have to figure this out.
Point of this? Okay.
I don't know. It's weird that they would like greenlight a network show in the 80s about like marine biologists looking at sharks. Yeah. It's not something they would do. It was mostly shows about like people driving down highways and flipping their car off and then people rescuing them.
Right.
That's what all the shows were.
Yeah.
So the idea that there would be some sort of like reality show about like people going down to see sharks seems really unlikely.
Well, if any listener knows what the fuck Warren is talking about, write into podcast@warrenandbradley.com. We haven't been giving out our email address lately, so we want some listener feedback. Write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.
Thanks.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. Let's start it right off. Chris Brown crashes car while evading paparazzi. This is from the Associated Press. Police in Beverly Hills say Chris Brown escaped injury after crashing his Porsche into a wall while being chased by paparazzi. Lieutenant Lincoln Hoshino said the collision occurred around noon Saturday. Brown told police that he lost control of his black Porsche during the chase. Police are investigating the incident. What is this thing with... You get in your car, you're a celebrity. You know, people have cameras in your face all the time, especially if you're Chris Brown. You just assume that's the case. What is the impulse when you get in your car and suddenly you're in the Dukes of Hazzard and you need to outrun the paparazzi? Where is this going? It's not like I'm across the state line and now the paparazzi just, oh, shit, we can't change. What's the end result of this? It's you crashing.
Yeah.
That's always the end result.
Or one of the paparazzi being killed and you looking bad.
There was the Bieber chase on the 101 freeway. There's been Lohan. There's been countless accidents caused by people running from the paparazzi. And everyone wants to blame the paparazzi. And even I kind of have that tendency to do so. But there can't be a chase unless somebody runs.
In any physical danger from the paparazzi for the most part.
They're irritating.
They're annoying.
Yes.
But it's like if a mosquito was chasing you and you got in your car and took off on the freeway to try to get away from it and then crashed.
Yeah.
It's like, it's annoying. Nobody wants a mosquito around. But at the same time, you don't want to risk anyone's life or your own life to try to get away from it.
It's like running from a bee.
Yeah.
You can't really outrun a bee.
And the worst thing that can happen is you get stung and you get stung.
Yeah. I guess I sort of understand the mentality where you're just like, fuck, I need to get away from these people, because that is a bee lands on you. You go, oh, and you run, even though the bee is just going to be right there.
But I think maybe the more like intelligent or like experienced celebrities, I think they probably they deal with the paparazzi in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Like they give them, here, you can have this, you can have this, you can have this. And then I'll go now.
And I won't hang out at hotspot clubs. I won't
go to the
Frank
places,
Ocean in the face.
Yeah, do things that will like draw you in and then like flee from you.
Well, it's like people like Stephen Fry, who's really big in England. I think some people have heard of him here. He drives a London City cab around.
Yeah.
So nobody knows who he is.
You know? The paparazzi chasing Stephen Fry.
He's really famous there. He's like one of the most famous people.
I mean, there are lots of famous people here, but paparazzi don't chase them.
Yeah.
I could see them chasing like Lily Allen, but they're like, ooh, it's Stephen Fry. Let's chase him. And he's like, oh my God, I got to
say something pithy.
Yeah, exactly. Is he like the analogous to Chris Brown over there?
Yeah, pretty much. I think so.
I think Robbie Williams is more, that speed.
That might be more apt. Speaking of Chris Brown, he has been called into court again because of probation issues. Apparently, prosecutors are saying that Chris Brown did not complete all the community service he was supposed to for the 2009 Rihanna beating. Funny thing about this story, his mother had run a child daycare place in Virginia, and supposedly that was where he was doing his community service, and I'm sure he was just sitting around playing PSP, and then she would fill out his forms for him, and that's what the prosecution is saying is that the forms were fraudulent. But the ridiculous thing about this story is that Rihanna is there supporting her man. She blew him a kiss as he went into court. And like, okay, go stand there as you're being pulled into court for possibly not completing the community service you got for beating the shit out of me. I'm going to be supportive and be right at your side. Next story.
Oh, my.
George W. Bush's paintings leaked online after private email account hacked.
His paintings that he does?
Apparently.
Oh.
This is from Us Magazine. George W. Bush has kept a relatively low profile since leaving the White House in 2009. But now, thanks to an apparent hacker who goes by the name Guccifer, the world can see what the former president has been up to these last few years. Painting. Guccifer is a prolific hacker who has hacked into many famous email accounts, and I guess he hacked into several Bush family accounts, including George H.W., George W., got some personal emails about H.W.'s health, and found pictures that supposedly Bush has painted. There's one here we'll post online.
Whoa. Wow.
There's a painting of what appears to be a naked George W. Bush. It seems to be a self-portrait. It's only from the waist up, his back, as he's in the shower, and there's a little round shaving mirror, and you can sort of see, it looks like something that someone who was
that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Actually thought it was some sort of like abstract thing.
No.
But I see what you're talking about. He is in the shower. I just thought it was like a back of a man and then a bunch of weird images around him, but now I'm putting it together.
If I were teaching art class, I would assume that like an 11-year-old had painted that. It's kind of cute. It's kind of quaint. Little Georgie is like...
Man, it really like goes right into the stereotype of what we all think George Bush's level of intelligence is.
At least it wasn't in crayon.
Which is average to slightly below average.
I just think it's kind of cute. He's on his ranch in Crawford. It's like, yeah, I'm
going to paint me a picture.
Paints his little picture. Yeah, this looks good.
Oh,
the other painting is of a man in a bathtub. From the subject's own point of view, it shows the man's outstretched legs half submerged in water under a running faucet.
Why is he painting pictures of himself in the bathroom? Weird man.
We'll post the picture online anyway. You guys can check it out at warrenandbradley.com. Next story. Mayim Bialik. I think that's how you pronounce that.
Yeah, that's what we're going with.
Former star of Blossom and now currently in The Big Bang Theory. I am done breastfeeding my 4-year-old son, Fred. It's another one of these crazy...
things you should have said probably 3 years ago.
Well, there was the whole, the Time magazine cover with the breastfeeding. What is that parenting called? It's super obsessive helicopter parenting, but that's not what they want to call it.
It's like something like nurturing parenting or something like that.
In a post on Jewish parenting website Veller...
I go there a lot.
She said, quote, "Well, naysayers, prepare to be proven wrong. All of you snarky mamas who glared at me nursing my 3.5-year-old on the New York City subway, prepare to be amazed. And to all of my family and friends who wanted to chastise me about nursing a walking, talking, thinking, laughing little man named Fred, thanks for holding your tongue. Because we did it. Fred isn't going to nurse on his way down the wedding aisle or his high school graduation. I didn't need to break him of a habit and teach him who's in charge. I didn't need to set boundaries you thought I should have set when I didn't want to set them, because we did it. Fred weaned." I don't think anyone was thinking that it was impossible for him to be weaned. I think they were thinking it was fucking ridiculous that you were breastfeeding a 4-year-old.
It's weird if you're Blossom.
Yeah.
First of all, you're taking the subway.
Yeah.
You have a 3.5-year-old and you're breastfeeding it on the subway?
Yeah. I think parents like this who want to shove that in everyone's faces. I'm doing this and I don't care what you think. They also want to expose everyone to that.
Yeah.
Because they want people to look at them and judge them then they can feel self-righteous and like, oh, well, yeah. Breastfeeding in public, fine. But at least, cover the boob a little bit. I need to see that.
Well, that's the thing about it, right? Because people are like, look at my boob. Yeah. Look at me doing this.
And they want people to be offended,
and it's
so
like,
then they can jump down their
it's
throat.
fine. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. But it's also like, we live in a society with a lot of people. And people have different feelings about it. So maybe if you're in this area of a bunch of different, diverse people, just throw a little blanket over there. And you'll just get by. And that doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just, we're just all just living here.
It's exactly analogous to if I were riding the subway and I had to take a piss. And I took out...
Completely natural.
It's completely natural. I took out a, 2-liter empty Coke bottle, just peed right in there, right in front of everybody. What are you looking at? What's wrong? This is natural.
But that's the thing, right? It is a thing. It's something on that spectrum.
Kind of, yeah.
That's the thing. It's like you would not have sex with somebody on the bench of the subway. But you're like, this is completely natural. Yeah. This is what we do.
It's a beautiful
This is how we
thing.
make babies.
Yeah.
This was going on for millions of years.
It's an expression of love.
At the same time, people are like, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not a black and white issue.
Well, we're not exactly equating breastfeeding to public fornication, but
the thing is, it's like we have a society.
Yeah.
And you can be like, the breastfeeding thing's gotten to the point where it's like, this is right. Me having this out is like right.
Right.
And you thinking anything different is completely wrong. Where it's like, there's a spectrum.
It goes into the same thing we've talked about 1,000 times of everybody trying to subject everyone else to their shit and not caring at all about whether or not they're making anyone else uncomfortable because this is what I'm doing. And if you're offended, then there's something wrong with you. Khloe Kardashian, Lamar Odom slam split rumors. Our sex life is intense.
Speaking of people who are probably getting pegged by their wives.
I don't know of any two people I would rather not picture having sex than Khloe Kardashian and Lamar Odom. Can you think of a more objectionable looking couple?
Yeah, it's not good, is it?
Can you? Is there anybody you can think of?
No, not off the top of my head.
Is she as tall as him?
No. He's almost 7 feet tall, so it's unlikely.
Exactly. Is she as tall as him?
This relationship always seems so weird, doesn't it?
It's really mean, and I'm not one to make fun of people's looks. Seriously. I mean, I do it in a joking manner, usually, but there's something wrong. There's something very wrong. We mentioned before that she looked as though she was a male to female sex change. And that might sound cruel and unkind.
But I think it's a reflection of the fact, not that we like dislike Khloe in any way, but it is strange to be a woman who's famous for nothing and not even be attractive, yet be married to like an NBA star.
That's an interesting
just because
point.
of what your last name is?
Yeah, usually the famous for nothing are the Paris Hiltons, the people I don't even know if I would call it. She was kind of cute at one point. Now she's kind of ratty looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, to not have talent, to not have looks, to be 6'6" and, a good 240, whatever she is. It's just kind of weird.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
And Lamar is a very weird man.
Yeah.
Who eats lots of candy and acts in strange ways constantly.
Are you describing yourself?
Gave up on the Dallas Mavericks last year because he just didn't like being there. Has some weird fixation on living by the beach, so he won't go anywhere else. The whole relationship's strange.
Well, they're having lots and lots of intense sex, so good for them.
Good for them.
This will be our last story on Celebrity Minute. This is from the Associated Press. Pianist's music fails to put tortoises in the mood. I mentioned the story because last week, or was it last week or the week before, we were talking about the tortoise, the Galapagos tortoise.
Oh, yeah.
London. No wonder they're endangered. Galapagos tortoises at London Zoo lumbered around impassively as famous French pianist Richard Clayderman serenaded them with music from his latest album, Romantique. The music, an attempt Thursday to put the reptiles in the mood to mate, appeared lost on the slower-moving giants. Even a rousing rendition of Chariots of Fire did little to lift the tortoise spirits.
They didn't even start running?
No. They only seemed to perk up when zookeepers brought them some carrots.
Do you remember these stories about panda porn?
Yeah.
Right?
Watching pandas fucking is going to get other pandas in the mood to fuck. I don't know if that works.
I think it's different. I think that's like anthropomorphizing the turtles, the tortoises and the pandas, right? Just thinking like, oh, you're like us.
Playing romantic piano music is not really going to do it for the tortoises.
Another thing, like playing romantic piano music does nothing for me either. You know what I mean?
No. Is there any music that gets you in the mood, Warren?
No.
No, me neither. If I'm in the mood, I'm in the mood, and you could be playing anything in the background. It wouldn't really worry me.
I was watching something the other day, and somebody was trying to be quiet when they were having sex, and they're like, we can't play music. This is so awful. We can't play music while we're... And I was like,
You were watching people having sex, and they were trying to be quiet? What was going on?
I think it was in some movie.
Okay. I hope it was in a movie.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I can't remember. The distinction between movies and reality have blurred because I've become a voyeur. But, yeah, I just thought that was strange. Because the music, I have no association in that way with, like, when I turn on my, like, Daft Punk, I'm not like, oh, yeah, the beat's going, and then I start, like... Yeah.
Maybe that's more of a girl thing. I don't know. Or I think a lot of times people use music to try to muffle the sounds of their fornicating.
Oh, yeah.
It's talking about trying to be quiet when you're having sex. I mean, I can remember being a teenager with the girlfriend and you're like up in the attic or something and you're like having sex as quietly as possible. So it's because my formative years of my first sexual activity, it was pounded into me that I had to be as quiet as possible. So I'm still like...
You never break that habit.
There's not a lot of...
You'll always be quiet.
Not a lot of noise going on.
The other thing... How much of your life have you spent listening to music that was just like loud around you that you were listening to your music? Or how much of it has been experienced with listening to it with headphones? Very rarely in my life have I just like put on some music and just played it.
Yeah.
In a house.
Yeah.
So I always have roommates, or there's always like neighbors, and there's always like some reason not to just go ahead and do that. Mm-hmm. And maybe I just don't associate music in that way as an experience I have with another person.
Yeah, I don't know. There was one moment when music ruined the mood when I was trying to have sex with somebody. It was with an ex-girlfriend, and she liked Otis Redding, and she was playing some Otis Redding in the background. And just at the point of insertion, the song, I can't remember what the song was, but the lyric was, I'm gonna ease on in, like right as you're about to have sex. And of course, I just dissolved into hysterical laughter, and it just completely ruined the mood.
Yeah, you can't maintain like an intense sexual experience at that point when something that weird happens.
So Otis, who I think is often cited as somebody that you might want to bone to, maybe not necessarily the best choice.
A lot of those like soulful singers, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
To me, it does not make any sense at all that, okay, I'm going to record this song where I describe the various ways that I'm going to love you. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, yeah, let's get in the shower. It's just, to me, that's cheesy and ridiculous. But apparently it works on women, maybe?
That's a good point. Like, lyrically?
Yeah.
Something I'm not interested at all.
No.
It's like, I don't want to hear about you, like, making love to your woman or telling me about how you want to make love to your woman.
No.
I always assume...
Well, I don't think we're the... He's not singing to us. He's singing to the ladies, to the babies.
Yeah, so we don't... It doesn't matter to us.
I guess.
Yeah.
Women, write in. Maybe we could do a That's How Women Are about that. If you are turned on by erotic soul music,
or
let
any
us know.
sort of music, if you like... Because we were talking about this last week about just your weird distinction between like arousal or something
and drive,
you know, if you have things that are not related to the person you're having sex with or to a person you're attracted to,
right,
that somehow give you some sort of like level of arousal, we will protect your identity. But anyone wants to write in, we'd like to know anything about that.
We want to know from men whether they like to be pegged by their girlfriends, and we want to know from women whether or not they like to be boned to the strains of Otis Redding or Teddy Pendergrass. Please write in to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Sitting at home, bored, alone. You have Netflix streaming, but you don't know what to watch. Well, now you do with Netflix Pix on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Oh, all right. So in an attempt to appease some of our listeners who are apparently irritated by having to read subtitles all the time with all my Netflix picks, we have two movies that are actually in English. One of them is ostensibly an English film, though it's by a Dutch director, Nicholas Winding Refn, who did Drive recently. He also did a film, Valhalla Rising. It is a very strange, kind of surrealistic portrait of a real-life man by the name of Michael Gordon Peterson, who is kind of renowned in England as the most notorious prisoner in the English prison system. He was arrested on a petty crime in the 70s, was given a short sentence, and his behavior has been so egregious in prison that he has been in jail ever since. Most of the time in solitary confinement. It's starring Tom Hardy, who, when he made this film, was not very well known, but now he's kind of everywhere. I think he has to be in every movie that's ever made right now. And it's crazy portrayal. He's buffed out again, like in his role for Bane. He's shaved head, crazy mustache, just completely loses himself in the character. There's a lot of weird asides. There's times where he will address the camera as though he's
breaking the fourth wall.
Yes, as though he's giving some sort of weird vaudevillian performance. It's a portrait of someone who is insane, and it's sort of trying to explore why he acts the way he does. His favorite thing to do is to, well, especially in his younger days when he was still spry, would be to take a guard hostage, strip naked, rub butter all over himself, and then wait for all the other guards to come and brawl with them. And he would always end up getting the shit kicked out of him eventually, even though he was a huge guy and did, underground bare knuckle boxing and everything when he was out of the joint. There's this weird masochistic urge. It's a very interesting portrait of a guy. I recommend it. It's not for everybody necessarily. It's not a feel-good movie. It's not not necessarily...
If you're not into people getting buttered up and then being beaten in prison cells, maybe this isn't the movie for you.
It's worth seeing for Tom Hardy's performance, and it's worth seeing just for the portrayal of a very interesting character. So that is Bronson from 2008. That is currently streaming on Netflix. The next one is a film called Warrior from 2011, also starring Tom Hardy. Ooh. This is one of those movies that I enjoy where reading the plot synopsis makes you think it's going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And then you watch it and you're pleasantly surprised. So let me read the synopsis from Netflix. Set in the violent world of mixed martial arts combat, this gritty drama follows two brothers at war with each other who have pursued separate lives. But preparation for a championship bout soon leads the siblings back into each other's paths. Now, doesn't this sound like the most cliched sports movie you can possibly imagine? And the amazing thing about this film is that it manages to, while working within the boundaries of these sports movie cliches, the two brothers at odds, training for the big fight, drunken father played by Nick Nolte.
Oh, drunken father even.
Yes. And, history of abuse, all this shit. It still manages to be fresh. You still find yourself really rooting for the characters. You find yourself completely involved. And I think what it does well is it takes all those tropes that have been used and
hammered
reused
into
and
ground.
overused.
Yeah.
And it actually brings real characterization to it. And so instead of it just being these archetypes that you've seen 1,000 times, you actually end up caring about the characters and you understand what they're... And even the idea of the two brothers, what perfect pat resolution is this going to come to, because it works. It works perfectly well. And I've recommended this movie to several people, all of whom were like, what the fuck? I don't want to watch this. This looks ridiculous. And then all of whom were quite impressed and surprised by how good the movie was.
The poster even doesn't look that impressive.
It's two shirtless buff men.
Just says warrior down the middle.
It also stars Joel Edgerton, who is an Australian actor who's been kind of emerging lately. He was in Zero Dark 30. He's been in several other things recently. Directed by Gavin O'Connor. It's quite good, and I highly recommend it.
Fabulous.
All right. Warren, you still haven't watched Headhunters, one of my last Netflix picks.
No, I haven't.
All right.
I know you've encouraged me to watch this Headhunters movie.
Don't be like Warren. Take my advice. Watch the movies I tell you to watch. This has been Netflix Picks.
Yeah.
On the Warren and Bradley Show.
This has been Netflix Picks on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Okay, so we've talked in the past about the frightening future scenario where you and I are some of the only men left and we're held as sex slaves to the urges of these women, just to be their horses that they ride all the time to a lather. Something occurred to me. These two scenarios, you tell me which one you would rather live in.
All right.
A world in which you are the only man left.
Yeah.
So the world is completely populated by women. All the other men have died, and you're the only one left, and you're fertile, like you can reproduce.
Yeah.
Or a world in which there is only one woman left, but she's your girlfriend, and she's really hot, and she loves you completely, and doesn't want to be with any other man. She only wants to be with you. Which society would you rather live in?
I'd definitely rather live in the society with just a bunch of women.
Because you think your chances would obviously go... I mean, if you're the only man, chances are...
That's the thing. You're saying this other scenario, this beautiful woman's really committed to me, though, right?
Yeah.
But it's
she's the love of your life. Like, she's a girl... You couldn't imagine being with anyone you're more suited to. You're completely, perfectly compatible. But she's the only woman. And there's millions and billions of men who want this woman.
Well, of course, the problem with that scenario is that I would feel like both I and her would be in some danger.
Yeah.
At this point, right? I would be a marked man.
You would be holed up in some sort of fort with guns trained on the horizon.
There's no way I'm going to live that way.
Well, but, see, this is what you're saying. You would rather give up true love for a series of shallow sexual encounters.
I would rather give up true love for a chance to, survive into my 40s.
You're not willing to protect the thing you love. You're not willing to fight for your love.
This is the thing. Overwhelming odds. It's one thing if there are, I have to fight one person.
Do you have so little faith in your fellow man that you think that they would kill you to take your woman from you?
It depends on how the scenario came about, right?
Uh-huh.
If there was some weird disease that just wiped out every other woman, and then she was the only one left, and then, the government was very, protective and was we'll protect you, then I would be probably fine with it. If it's a scenario where it happens really instantly and everyone's these ravenous men are just like breaking down the door trying to get at my girlfriend. That's not a world I want to live in.
See, I don't think the government would protect you, though. I think that if there was only one fertile woman left, they would take her and start harvesting her eggs and just keep her sequestered in some room, and they would let, like, Bill Clinton and Obama have at her or something, but they wouldn't let you anywhere near.
No. This is a scenario that I would like to think would happen. We would get, like, transported to some, like, underground bunker.
Why would they just let you be with it? They don't care.
Because it's like they would probably prefer that they have her consent than not.
I don't think they would give a shit.
No, I think they would.
No.
Because that woman is a danger to herself at that point. If you take her in there and you completely, like, destroy her, like, emotionally, she might die.
They can keep her alive.
But the thing is, it's not going to cost them anything more to keep me around.
Yeah, but then
keep her happy.
I think they would just force her to procreate with whoever they thought was the most genetically.
And another thing they're not going to do is like bring people in and have them have sex with her. They would try to artificially inseminate
They'd have
her.
all the Hollywood elite would sign up, and they'd be penciled in for a session. George Clooney would be in there.
What probably would happen though, I would have to be like, this is fine. She would probably be artificially inseminated with people with a lot of different genetic material. She would produce many different children, right? To try to keep the species going.
Yeah.
But I would still, like, I'd live with her and be like her husband. And we'd, like, these babies would come out and everyone would be really, like, careful with them and try to, like, hope that there was males and females. And then, of course, they would have to breed with each other, tragically. But that's what would happen. There's no incentive for them to be like, we could do this, or else we could just kill your boyfriend, take you and chain you up and do it to you in this really horrible way.
Yeah.
There's no reason. That doesn't make it any easier for them.
I think it does. I think just keep her sedated, keep her on a bed. They don't have to physically have these people having sex with her. They would just harvest her eggs. They would artificially inseminate them. They would have them in test tubes, getting these little babies growing. She would just be a machine, a breeding machine, and you would be sequestered in some cell somewhere, screaming her name.
That's why I'm saying, why would I choose that scenario?
Well,
the way you painted it was like, oh, you didn't choose true love.
Well,
the love where I'm in some cell and she's being harvested for eggs. This is what you want. This is where we want me to live.
That was the certain wrinkle that you put on it, though, as if the government became involved. But
that's where it's going.
If it were an instantaneous thing where suddenly it was like you wake up in the morning, you're in bed with your girlfriend, and the news comes on, every single female has disappeared on the planet, and everyone's like, there is one female left, and they put your name and address, and suddenly it's on.
But the thing is, if that happens and they're all gone, and I'm at my house and she's there and I'm like, we can't let anyone see you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's no way to live. I'm not going to keep her, like, secretly hidden in my house, hoping that no one will sense that she's there.
Meanwhile, people would be trying to shake me down for information. I'd have to decide whether or not I betrayed you.
Yeah, this is the scenario.
This is a great movie. This is a great, like, road trip, going across country, trying to hide the only female left in the world while there's all these men in, like, bondage gear running after you with dildos.
Like Mad Max, that guy with the weird... Yeah.
I am the great humongous.
The other scenario, though...
With assless chaps.
Other scenario, not so bad, though, right?
I don't know. Do you love this girl? Are you willing to give her up in order to just have sex with a bunch of other women?
Well, that's a weird thing you're telling me, though. You're giving me... It's a dichotomy. These are two choices, right?
My scenarios aren't necessarily logical.
This really horrible scenario where she's the only woman alive, or I can choose a scenario where, like...
But you love her.
Yeah, but that's not a reason. I don't want her to live in a horrible world because I love her.
Well, that's
a different scenario. It's a difference between, like, me choosing to live in a world with just my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Where she's safe and we live our life together in some way. Mm-hmm. Or live in a world where I could basically have sex with anybody I wanted whenever I wanted to.
Right.
That's the real scenario, right?
So you don't feel confident in your ability to take on...
The entire world?
The 4
no.
billion males who would be...
No. Why would I feel any confidence to do that?
Take a lot of ammunition.
We might just be like, shoot ourselves in a closet somewhere to survive.
Do you think we're selling men short, though? Do you think maybe they wouldn't all try to kill you and rape your girlfriend?
But I'm not even talking, not even besides the rape scenario, just the government scenario you're talking about. That whole thing, that's what would go on. Mm-hmm. There'd be some way to try to keep the species going.
Yeah.
And she would be key to that attempt to keep the species going. So it would just turn into a weird science fiction movie at that point.
Yeah.
And plus, the world you're going to be living in is a world, remember Children of Men, that movie?
Oh, I do.
Where things get pretty dark pretty fast.
Baby Diego.
No babies. there's no reason to keep up society.
I do agree with the premise of that film that even though, I'm not walking around on a daily basis thinking that only the hope of me fathering a child is the only thing keeping me going. I don't think about that ever, but I do feel like society at large, if suddenly it was impossible for us to reproduce, that would create just such a sense of weird hopelessness that people would just freak out and start rioting and go insane.
Yeah. It would destroy the fabric of society.
Yeah.
Future.
Don't you know the children are the future?
Children.
Yeah, I think we should start working on this treatment. I think that what would actually happen...
The one where I'm just with a bunch of ladies?
No.
Making love to him?
No, I'm sure you'd love that one. But you pick true love. You love your girlfriend, so you're not gonna just throw her aside. And
wait, this movie starts with like you as some sort of God coming down, giving me this scenario. People are like, "This is a very confusing plot. Who is this guy? Why is he giving him this choice?"
I'm ascribing a heart and soul to you, Warren, that maybe you don't possess. But
so the movie starts with women just dying.
Yeah, every woman just drops dead.
Yeah,
recently. I don't know how or why.
Some woman virus.
The woman virus.
Yeah.
Which the evil white male scientists are working on even as we speak, which wouldn't make any sense.
They're working on it at these government research laboratories because they were tired of women talking back.
Yeah.
So they're like, we'll take care of that.
Just in case women decide to get a little more uppity and start rising up, they hold this over their head, but then some junior research assistant accidentally drops a test tube and it gets into it gets into some weather system and air currents take it all around the world.
Next thing you know,
in minutes. And it kills them instantly, except your girlfriend just happened to have a rebreather. She was getting asbestos out of your house for some reason. And,
is this the scenario? It's not that she's like immune to this.
No.
But she has to wear a rebreather.
No, because it was an aerosol form and the virus only lasts for a while.
Yeah.
And since there were no more, the infected are all dead. They can't spread it anymore.
Okay. And
men are immune to it. So once she was done getting the asbestos out of the ceiling tiles in your house.
I'm sitting there watching her doing it, of course.
Drinking a beer on the couch.
Yeah.
And then it's all done with. She takes her rebreather off and suddenly, whoa, all the women are dead. And then I am your best friend.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one who knows that she's still alive. And so I'm torn between helping you get to an island in the Pacific that's uninhabited, that's uncharted. I'm going to get a boat, get a yacht or something and get you out there. But then at the same time, the government has found out that I know that she exists and there's other people, other men putting pressure. Men's Health magazine has sent representatives to me. They've got millions of dollars. And
Men's Health magazine, apparently not just gay porn anymore. They're actually getting involved.
And they've created these sex dolls that are pretty much perfect android females. And so they could give me access to these. And that's also the way to tempt me into betraying you.
So weird.
So I'm torn between helping my best friend and his girlfriend escape to an island in the Pacific.
Or having android sex dolls.
And lots of money. And the presidency.
The thing is, though, would that be your priority at that point? If the scenario is like the human race will die out.
Well, as long as you break me off a piece every once in a while, I'd probably end up helping you.
But I think if the scenario did occur, I may be like, we need to turn ourselves in. We need to,
Well, yeah. Would you be so selfish that you're like, well, we can reproduce on this little island, and maybe in thousands of years, my progeny will repopulate the Earth.
Progeny? Oh, can you imagine? That's a weird scenario too, isn't it? And then you'd really be like Adam and Eve, right? You have created everyone. It's a dark future too. And I wonder about let's say we had 8 children.
Mm-hmm. And they would have to draw straws on who they would have sex.
But they would, you know what I mean? They would all have to breed with each other.
Well, is it worse? Is it better for you to interbreed with your children or for them to interbreed with each other? I'm not sure. Because they have some of your wife's genetic material,
No, I think it's probably
better for you to have
from a genetic
sex with your
standpoint
children.
For you to have sex with your daughters to have children in that way.
Right.
Than it is for
them to have sex with each other.
If we knew a geneticist, we could write this question in. I don't know if anyone ethically is going to answer this. As far as what's better for the human race at this point.
Okay, so we have several questions to our audience at this point in the show. Do men like to have things inserted into their anuses? Do women like to have sex to the strains of sexy soul music? And is it better to have sex with your daughter or for your daughter to have sex with your son? Please write into podcast@warrenandbradley.com and let us know.
Yeah, please.
All right, I think that's enough for the Warren and Bradley Show this week. This has been one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
This is the other host, Warren Van.
Saying,
I hope I don't have to have sex with my daughter.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.